Well, good morning, everyone. Tony, appreciate those remarks, and thank you all for attending this special and important event. It's my distinct honor to be with you today as we formally launch the DHS Center for Countering Human Trafficking. I want to thank our distinguished guests for joining us to mark this historic occasion. I'd also like to pay special recognition to two remarkable women joining us today, Tanya Gold and Chalita Havil, both survivors of human trafficking who you'll have the opportunity to hear from a little bit later. Your courage is an inspiration to all of us. I commend each of you for telling your story and helping us put an end to this horrific crime. So thank you again for being here. Human trafficking is modern-day slavery. There's just no other way to say it. The words are strong because the actions are evil. The forms of exploitation, sex trafficking, forced labor, and domestic servitude that constitute human trafficking are antithetical to in every way to the principles of human dignity that Americans hold dear. Since founding of DHS 17 years ago, we've been involved in fighting this scourge, but too often these efforts, though well-intentioned, were fragmented across the department. This administration is putting an end to that. We are gathered here today to say no more. No more to the sexual exploitation of vulnerable women and children. No more to the victimization of innocent people through forced labor. No more to the gross abuse of human rights and dignity resulting from this despicable crime. The launch of the DHS Center for Countering Human Trafficking represents the investment of resources, attention, and time by this department and this administration to combat and dismantle all forms of human trafficking. In January, this administration took two important steps towards this goal. First, I announced the department's intention to create this center during an event to release the DHS strategy to combat human trafficking, the importation of goods produced with forced labor, and child sexual exploitation. Shortly thereafter, President Trump established government-wide efforts through his executive order on combating human trafficking and online child exploitation in the United States, which called on government to vigorously prosecute offenders, to assist victims, and to provide prevention education. Those are the aims of this center, led by ICE HSI with staff, expertise, and legal authorities gathered from components across DHS enterprise to include Customs and Border Protection, the Blue Campaign, Coast Guard, the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services, and the Transportation Security Administration. This integrated center will be the first of its kind. By aggregating these resources, the center will serve as a central hub for victim support, investigative operations, intelligence and data collection and analysis, and training and outreach of law enforcement partners, civil society, and the public. I'm proud to report 16 DHS components and headquarters offices will be working in cooperation to pool our resources and to staff the center. Again, the center will monitor and support DHS counter human trafficking operations across the country and globally. The center allows us to better investigate, interdict, and prosecute human trafficking crimes, identify and assist victims, and educate communities on prevention methods. When addressing any problem, particularly one of this magnitude, it's critical for the public to understand what it is. There are two predominant forms of human trafficking, sex trafficking and forced labor. Both involve the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some type of commercial sex act or labor from a victim. The word trafficking often leads to a misconception that this activity requires crossing an international or state border. It does not. Most ICE HSI investigations involve human trafficking that is entirely domestic, with most victims being U.S. citizens. Leveraging years of experience in combating these crimes, ICE HSI employs a victim-centered approach, placing equal value on the identification and stabilization of victims, as well as on the investigation and prosecution of human traffickers and child sex offenders. This sort of victim-centric approach to safety and justice is part of the very DNA of DHS. While counterterrorism efforts are top of mind for many folks when they think of the department, DHS does so much more. Each and every day, men and women within DHS are seeking to investigate and prosecute those who violate human rights of vulnerable individuals trapped in the cycles of exploitation. DHS personnel's steadfast commitment to safety, to dignity, and justice cannot and will not be forgotten. As threats to the homeland shift and evolve, the tools and actions of our department must evolve as well. Human trafficking is one of the greatest human rights abuses of our time, and we will not stop fighting until we eradicate it, until every person is safe and free. I'm grateful to ICE Acting Director Tony Pham and HSI Executive Associate Director Derek Benner. Where's Derek? See here? There he is, Derek. Who is really for spearheading the establishment of the center, implementation of the center, and all the great work that ICE has been doing to stand this up. As it's being stood up, HSI's Senior Executive Service Criminal Investigator Angie Salazar, where's Angie? There we go, will be leading the center, and you'll hear from her a little bit later. Angie's worked in the field at headquarters and overseas investigating human trafficking and supervising and developing related policy. Angie's dedicated her life to helping survivors of this horrendous crime, and I believe there's no one better qualified than to run and lead the center, so thank you. Staff members joining Angie include both law enforcement and non-law enforcement personnel who will support sex trafficking investigations, victim assistance, and outreach. While each of these members have a unique background and skill set, they are united in their passion for this tremendously important issue. I commend to each of these remarkable professionals, and thank you all for dedicating yourselves to this noble fight and continuing the pursuit of justice for the sake of survivors and the prevention of any future victims of this terrible crime. With the support of President Trump, the leadership of ICE, cooperation across all of DHS, I firmly believe the center's work will play a critical role in one day bringing an end to human trafficking in America. Let me just also point out, before this event, we had a roundtable with a number of folks from the department, including Acting Commissioner Mark Morgan from CBP, from the private sector, NGOs, our survivors, a great conversation about how, again, to move this horrendous crime into the forefront of what the vast majority of people, I don't believe, know is going on. And so what I heard in that roundtable was a lot of passion, the talk of relationships, building those relationships, improving on those relationships, and really just continuing to work together as a team with the department, but with our private sector and NGO partners as well. So very excited about the future work that we can do. With that, let me welcome Dr. Julia Nishawat, the Deputy Assistant to the President and Senior Director for Homeland Security and Resilience on the National Security Council. We're just really thrilled to have Julia here today. She's played a critical role within the administration of combating human trafficking, so it's an honor to have her today. Dr., the floor is yours.